is going to come under fire. I believe the debate commission is going to come under fire. Hopefully, Cleveland will at least get credit for having been able to stage an event that, if not was enlightening, at least was peaceful and no major episode or incidents outside that I'm aware of.
As a political reporter and analyst in Ohio, there were a few mentions of the state.
Yes, right. And a lot of people would, if in fact it's true or not hyperbole, the president basically took credit for bringing Big Ten football back on the field. That's all. He did have a meeting, or he did have some phone calls, or at least a phone call that was recorded with the Big Ten officialdom, and who knows how much leverage or influence he had in that. But I think the Big Ten officials were loath to give him absolute credit, and were claiming that they were just reacting to new scientific information.
There were some moments when former Vice President Joe Biden attempted to look into the camera and speak directly to the American people. Do you think that was a smart strategy, and maybe the few moments where he did that and wasn't interrupted, that could have some kind of an impact?
Well, again, his objective was to appear presidential, in control, and capable, and not over the hill. I think to a certain extent, in the middle of all of that babble and chaos, I think when he did have the opportunity to try to make a particular point on several important subjects, he did. But I don't see that there was any single thing in this debate that would necessarily, certainly not flip a Trump voter to Biden, or a Biden voter to Trump. And again, we all are working under the assumption that the number of people who are still undecided is single digits.
I'm joined by Tom Barris, political reporter and analyst for WKYC3 News in Ohio. One final question for you. When it comes to the president and his base, a part of the electorate that he is always very focused on, and Joe Biden and the Democratic base, I have a feeling the president's performance is probably going to play pretty well with his base. They will like his combativeness and his dominance at times of the debate stage. For Joe Biden, will Democrats be okay with his performance tonight, or will they be left wishing he had perhaps been a little tougher?
They perhaps would be left, they probably would be left wishing that he had not agreed to a debate and just decided that Pelosi's suggestion to say, thanks, I'll pass. But it'll be interesting to see if there is some discussion of what would be the point or purpose of having a round 2 and a round 3, although I believe one of them is a different format town hall meeting coming up. There will be an awful lot of dissecting and scrambling, and I think maybe serious discussion of what if any changes can be made in should the moderator maybe have some sort of mic cutoff buttons to silence the president or Mr. Biden when they're just rambling on without any regard for the protocols.
Well, I think next week when we have the vice presidential debate, that will probably be a bit different.
A little tamer, yeah.
thrown out, dishonorably discharged.
That's not true. It wasn't
For
dishonorably.
14 years, and he didn't have a job until you became vice president. Once you became vice president, he made a fortune in Ukraine, in China, in Moscow, and various other places.
True.
He
My
made a
son,
fortune.
my son,
And he didn't have a job.
my son, like a lot of people we know at home, had a drug problem. He's overtaken it. He's fixed it. He's worked on it, and I'm proud of him.
But why was
I'm
he
proud of
given
my
tens
son.
of millions
All right,
of
but he
dollars?
wasn't given
All right,
tens of millions of dollars. That is
President
totally,
Trump
that's
is
totally,
President Trump
discredited.
is
You've already been
Totally
totally discredited.
That was a moment that we knew was going to happen at some point during the course of the night. It was pretty much telegraphed by the Trump campaign that Trump was going to go after Joe Biden's son, Hunter. But just in the way that it unfolded there, it certainly caught a lot of people's attention. We have a lot more audio to play for you. There were a couple of other notable moments. One that I want to get to is when the president was pushing Joe Biden on whether or not essentially the far left wing of the party was going to control the agenda if Joe Biden would have been elected. And Joe Biden said, I am the Democratic Party. So we'll play that. Also, of course, we'll play the president's response to a question about whether or not he would thoroughly condemn white supremacists. That was a question posed by Chris Wallace. We have the president's answer for you. And then towards the end of the 90-plus minutes of chaos tonight, there were the questions about the election itself and some notable exchanges there. So we have a lot still to get to as we unpack what was something else. The 2020 vote, the first presidential debate here on iHeartRadio. Back with